Hi scrapbook friends, it's Nicole from Nicole's Scrapbooks, and I'm here today to talk to you about one of my favorite new products from Creative Memories, and that is the frame punches. Right now we have two frame punches. We have the petal frame and the Baroque frame. They both work the same way, but they punch a slightly different design. So this is the petal frame, and then this is the Baroque, which is a little fancier. The Baroque is the newest, and so that's what I'm going to talk about tonight. But I wanted you to know that they work the same way. So whichever one you have or whichever ones Creative Memories comes out with in the future, they're going to work the same way. There is one difference with the petal frame, and it's actually something they have upgraded with the Baroque frame punch, and that's the markings to indicate where to start when you're punching a border. So on the Baroque frame punch, if you'll see, there's a little black line on this white section by the logo. And that's going to show you where to position your paper if you're cutting a border. On the petal frame and on some of our older border punches, the black line is only in here in the blue section. So it's there, but sometimes it's a little bit more difficult to see. So what I like to do is take a Sharpie and just mark on this white section so that I can know where to align my punch when I'm punching. But hopefully going forward, they're going to be putting it on there already for me, so I don't have to mark my own. So I'm going to put the petal frame aside, and we're just going to talk about the Baroque frame. All of our punches come closed up like this, and they close up for storage. So this allows you to store them more efficiently. So when you want to use the punch, you're going to take this little sliding lock at the back, unlock it, and that's going to open up the lever to allow you to punch. When a punch is new, sometimes as part of the manufacturing process, there's kind of a liquid residue. I'm not sure if it's a mineral oil or what the residue is, but I always like to punch my new punches a few times on scrap paper just to clean off any of that manufacturing residue that might be there, especially sometimes if you're using a paper that you might not have extra of. You don't want to ruin it. Although I think that the liquid does evaporate and dry up. But I don't know what it is, and I don't know what like the photo safety of it would be. So punch a couple of times with a piece of scrap paper, and especially with some of these border punches, you might want to practice a little bit just so that you know what you're doing. All right, so we're going to get punching. One of the things about these, it's very intricate and it's going to leave a lot of confetti. So I like to take a piece of scrap paper and put it under my workspace. I happen to like these papers that come in the Creative Memories paper packs. These are so handy to have. They're great for scrap paper for something like this. I use them to jot notes to myself down. They're also photo safe. So if you need a piece of white to mat a photo or to make a journaling box or to use on your layout in any way, you can go ahead and use this piece of white cardstock and know that it's not going to harm your photos. But for today, we're going to use it as a little scratch paper. And you could use a piece of typing paper, you know, anything you want to put under here just to catch that confetti. So the first thing I'm going to do for you is show you just how to punch a border. And if you have a regular Creative Memories border punch, this is going to be the same technique. So I'm going to use that little black line that I showed you earlier, and I'm going to line the edge of my paper with that. Right here. Make sure that you're holding your paper against this little raised fence at the back. That's going to keep it straight as you go through the punch. And then as you slide it over, take the cutout image, and you're going to want to cover over so you can't see any of the blue, except this line. That's going to be for the frame part. But you see this design right here is blue. You want to cover over that. So that's how you know you're perfectly aligned. All right, so there's your border. And as you see, there's my little pile of confetti, and it's nicely all contained right here. So I can just easily take this and throw it in my trash. And then my workspace is clean and I don't have to scoop up a lot of little things. So there's just a regular border punch. You could use this on your scrapbook layout just like this. You could trim it off. You could do it a wide punch, you know, any of the things you would do with a border punch. Something I did think was really fun was to flip it and to do a double border. And so with the Baroque punch, I found that the best measurement to do a double border was 3 inches. So I'm going to use my 12-inch trimmer, and I'm going to just take the highest point of the punch that I've already cut and align that with my 3-inch mark. And then I'm going to trim this off. And then it's a little bit tricky to position the punch because the paper is going to cover up these aligning marks. But what I found is that the edge of the paper aligns right to the edge of this white, and that's going to line it up just right. So you put it in backwards. This is, remember, I cut it at 3 inches. So I put it right at the side here, and I'm going to punch down. And you can see now I'm going to do the same thing with lining it up all the way across. And of course, these punches can work in either direction. If you're left-handed, right-handed, you know, whatever direction you choose to work. If you start somewhere else, we'll just go on this side and finish up our punch. All right, so again, I'm going to take my little scraps and put them in the trash. And then you can see that I have that really pretty double-sided border. And what I thought was nice, you can play around with the widths. Maybe you don't need this much space. This was a 3-inch from the highest point. This one was a 2-inch border. And this one I did 1 3/4 inches. This was a little bit too close. You know, you didn't really get the cohesion of it holding together. But actually, if you stack these up and align them, it kind of looks pretty. Maybe not these colors together. But what a nice layered look that gives from varying the size of the paper width that you have. So that's kind of a double border punch, but you guys know how to use a border punch, so that none of this is new to you. But what makes the frame punches great is the way that you can go around a corner. And this will work with any piece of paper or cardstock that's at least 4 by 4 inches. And then it has to go up in increments of 2 inches. So 4 by 4, 4 by 6, 6 by 6, 8 by 8, up to 12 by 12. So I'm going to start with a 6 by 6 piece of cardstock to show you the difference about how these are different from a regular border punch. And the secret is this silver line right here that our regular punches don't have, our regular border punches. That's what you're going to align with. So when you're cutting a border, you align with the mark on the front. When you're cutting a frame and going around the corner, you align with this silver line on the wing. So I'm going to take my paper and I'm going to line it up with that silver line. I'm going to punch. I'm going to do the exact same thing I always do, match up with the blue. And then this is what I end up with. Then I'm going to turn the corner, line the edge up again with the silver line. I'm going to leave a little square, scoot that out of your way. And so you see we've gone around the corner. And so this just is really a fun way to add a little bit of a different look to your page border. If you do end up with a little piece that sticks on, you can just pluck that off. If that bothers you, you can trim that off. But if you're not measuring exactly, sometimes you can have that left on, but it's not a big deal. So there I've gone around the corner with my 6 by 6 piece of paper. Again, I'm going to empty my trash. So this is the 6 by 6. And then you can go, you know, up to other sizes. If you do if you wanted to mat a photo, this was a 6 by 8 rectangle that I started with. And this will be a photo mat for a 4 by 6 photo. So I don't know that it always works if you just go up, you know, 2 inches, 4 by 6 to 6 by 8, but it worked for this one. Or you could trim your picture down a little bit if you wanted it more of a frame like that. Then the other thing that's fun that you can do is you can layer these and offset how they look to get kind of a circular doily effect. So this is another 6x6 that I cut earlier. And if you take a second 6x6 of the same and just kind of offset it, it almost looks like a circle. And you can kind of align the pieces to make sure that you have it straight. But then you get kind of a doily effect. So you could put, you know, a circular photo in this. You could cut out the middle and get a look of a circle from your otherwise kind of square frame. I also have a 12x12 piece that if you use your whole full 12x12 paper, and that could be a nice background on your scrapbook layout. And then the other one that's really fun is if you do a 4x4. This is the smallest shape that you can punch. I think it looks really cute, almost circular again. And this one also, if you do the offset thing, it makes this very circular shape that almost like a medallion that you could put, you know, a flower, you could put a circle embellishment, something like that in the middle and have that circle look rather than the square look. So all you do is offset that with 2 of the same size punches. Even if you were to do something like this and, you know, make the doily look with the 2 white ones, and then we're going to do the same thing with these smaller ones. I mean, you can just layer it and it gives you a really pretty look. I have not tried it with layering the 12x12s. I don't think that would fit on a 12x12 page once you turn it sideways. So I haven't tried that, but I think it looks really cute to kind of give that circular look. So then I've got one more thing that I want to show you that I think is really neat about this frame punch, and that's how to make an inside frame. So if you see the regular frame just punching around the outside looks like this, but we can also do the opposite and do an inside frame. And this is a technique that has been taught to us by some of our Creative Memories Japan advisors. They are just so clever and just really think outside of the box. And so I did not invent this technique at all. This came from Creative Memories Japan and one of our US advisors, Sachio Omitsu, who is Japanese but lives here in America and is just so generous to share her ideas. So I thank Sachio for sharing this idea with other Creative Memories advisors. So what you're going to want to do for this one is you need to use pattern paper. This will not work on cardstock. It is too thick because you're going to be cutting through 2 thicknesses at a time. So this is a piece of just black double-sided pattern paper. This one happens to be from the new Picture This collection. And what you're going to want to do with this is fold it in half and be as accurate as you can. Attach your points and then go up and match on this point and then just go all the way across so that you have a folded triangular piece of paper. And then you're going to want to take your Creative Memories trimmer, and for this particular punch, you're going to want to cut a 1 3/4 inch square out of this. With the pedal punch, I think it's 1 1/2, but for this one, I felt like the 1 3/4 was better. So for me, I like to do that on this small side of the trimmer because I like to have as much of my paper as possible on the bigger side. So I'm going to go ahead and line this up. The farthest outside mark on this trimmer is the 1 3/4. If you haven't played around with the trimmer or watched my other video about the trimmer, I talk a lot more about some of the ways to cut different things with the trimmer. But what I'm going to do here is I'm going to start at the 1 3/4 inch mark. And because the blade housing covers up the numbers right here, I know that the edge of the blade is 1 inch out from where the actual blade makes contact. So I want to start my cut at 1 3/4. And so I can either kind of lean down and see where this one goes, or it's just a lot easier for me to put the edge of the blade housing at 2 3/4. So just add that little inch that covers the blade housing, and then I'm going to cut all the way down. And then just because this is a triangle, I'm going to flip it over and do the exact same thing. I'm going to put my paper at 1 3/4. I'm going to start my blade at 1 3/4. And I'm going to cut all the way out. So now what I've done is I have created an open square cut to to make my inside border frame from. So now the next step is to take this point where the edge of the cut is, and you're going to kind of fold it and line it up with the inside corner to find the exact middle of where your cut is. And you can just make a fold, but I find it so much easier if I make a little pencil line. And I'm going to cut that off so it doesn't matter if it shows. And then do the same thing on the other side. Line up the very edge of the cut with the inside edge of the cut, and then go ahead and mark that. And now you're going to take your punch and turn it upside down and put it in closer to the inside corner. Whoops, I have a little purple square. Closer to the inside corner. But you're going to look for that little pencil line. Can you see the little pencil line? It's right on this inside corner. I'm going to put a Post-it note on there because you guys can't see it, but I can see it. So I'm going to put a Post-it note so you can see what I'm doing with the inside corner. Sorry, I didn't think about that when I picked black paper to do this. All right, but you can see black yourself when you're doing it. So I'm putting my punch closer to the inside corner, making sure that it's lined up because you want this to be the same. And then I'm going to line up with the little pencil mark right here in this corner. I'm going to punch. Oh, I forgot my paper to catch all my confetti. I'll definitely want to have that. All right, and then you work toward the outside the same way we did before, with aligning your paper with the blue lines. Oh, that pink Post-it note's a lot easier to see, isn't it? All right, and we've just gone off the edge, and that's totally fine. And then we're going to do the same thing here. We're going to flip this upside down. We're going to start on closer to the inside with the pencil line on the outside corner. And punch. And then again, work our way toward the outside. Going off the edge. All right. Now I'm going to go ahead and take these Post-it notes off, which again, you'd only need if you couldn't see your pencil line. Empty my trash. And then you take this piece that you folded and you unfold it and then refold these other two corners. And you want to line the punched shapes up as closely as you can so that when you go ahead and punch the other corner, you get a clean, perfectly aligned punch. Okay, and so this one's easy, no pencil lines or anything needed. You're just going to do that same thing and punch a couple more punches to finish up your design. So I got two, I've gone off the corner, and then on this side, I've got two, and I've gone off the corner. All right, so now I'm going to empty my trash. And now I can unfold my punched out frame border. And you could also do this with a smaller size paper as well. You know, same technique, start in the middle, work your way out, and then refold it. So I think that looks fantastic. It's not as hard as it looks. When you want to adhere this, you definitely are going to want to use the repositionable tape runner. If you haven't tried this repositionable tape runner, it is amazing. All those years we've used glue pens and some of those things, this one is great because it gives just a few little dots of adhesive. And when you do it on a piece that is open like this, you can just go like this over your adhesive. Anything left stays on your backing paper. You do want to use a piece of paper underneath it. And then the adhesive just sticks to the actual image that you've cut out. And anything that's left over when you're done, you know, you stick your paper down, you can just rub off with your finger. This just kind of rubs off and you just brush it away, and anything left just brushes away. You aren't left with any sticky residue. So for something like this, that's absolutely what I would want to use to stick this down, because I don't have to worry about going around all these little intricate cutouts. And just line up the corners. Oh, and I broke my own rule, and I did this right on my same backing paper, but it will be so easy for me to just go back right here right now and rub off that excess. So there you go, that's the inside frame. And then of course we also had the outside frame, or I guess, I don't know if we call it the outside frame, but just the standard regular frame. We have a regular border, we have the smaller pieces, whether it's the 6x6, the 4x4, or the double layers. We have the double-sided border that you can layer. And of course the photo mat, all from this one frame punch. So it's super versatile. I've really enjoyed playing with it. It gives a great look. I'm really excited to see what other frame punches they come up with. When you're done using it, just close it back together and slide the lock, and that will just close it up for storage. Makes it nice and easy to store with your other punches and for transport. So thanks so much for watching my video. If you have any questions, feel free to ask me in the comments. If there's another tool that Creative Memories sells that you would like to see a demonstration about, I would love to do that for you. And wherever you are, I hope you are having lots of opportunities to take photos, and happy scrapbooking.